Hey guys, and welcome to this informal video where I'm going to sort of walk through some of the character arcs in Fantastic Four First Steps. Obviously, spoiler for that movie, but pretty much everything that's in the trailer is the movie. So don't worry about it. Mr. Fantastic, where does he start? Super smart guy. Maybe he's a little overwhelmed by his intelligence and he kind of focuses on that instead of focusing on his family. Setting up a person who can grow to be more of a family man, more of a father figure. And over the course of the movie, we don't see that. We see him continue to focus on science and intelligence instead of his family, while his wife, Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, says, "Hey man, focus on your family." And he's like, "Oh, I know, I know." I guess there's that scene with the baby where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn off the screens and let you tell me about you." But that's not really what she was talking about. I don't think that's his arc. He goes from being obsessed with science to being obsessed with science, but now he has a baby. Yeah, it's a big point of contention in the movie. Sue brings up that he didn't build the baby a crib, and he got Herbie to do it, and that is never paid off. That he never actually builds a crib that has any sort of special properties. It's just kind of forgotten about. There's the thing with the car seat, but that's like all three of them, and they're not very good at it anyway. So Mr. Fantastic's arc is basically science obsessed. Course of the movie happens. He's science obsessed, but now he has a baby. The Invisible Woman, she begins the movie learning that she is pregnant. That's about all she does. She talks about her baby. She talks about how she doesn't want her baby to die. She has a monologue towards the middle of the movie that was basically, "Hey, don't kill my baby." And okay, actually, let's pause. To be fair, I've only seen the movie once. I don't remember her monologue verbatim. Maybe I missed the point. But the main thesis that I remember at the end was think about things bigger than yourself and, whatever. 8 billion people dying is bigger than your baby. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Give Galactus that damn baby. Now, obviously, because the movie played out how it did, we know that wasn't the right move. Because I don't care. In that moment, in that context, if I was in that audience of people who are going to die because this woman didn't want her newborn baby, who doesn't even know he's alive yet, to live, I would be really mad. Okay, so the Invisible Woman's arc is she gets pregnant. Of course, the movie happens. She has her baby. At the end of the movie, she loves her baby and she takes care of it. And she doesn't want it to die. And basically, the only thing she talks about is the baby or where the baby is or what's. And I understand that being a mother is an important part of her character, especially like in this story. But it felt like that's all she was, and she wasn't a person with real thoughts and feelings and wants. It was just about my, oh Lord, my baby. I will say that of these, my Sue Storm one is the weakest. She might be the best. We'll get to it, but the Thing is probably the best, but we'll see. Okay. The Human Torch. Now, I've seen a lot of talk about the Human Torch being the best part of this movie, and if you think that, you're wrong. You are genuinely wrong. Okay, let's talk about this. Let's talk about old Johnny Storm, huh? At the beginning of the movie, his main thing is that he's obsessed with space. He wants to go back to space. They've been listening to these, deep space signals that are some alien language. So he, listens to it and whatever. Then, a little bit of movie happens, and he talks to the Silver Surfer, and he can get a piece of alien language and it translated, and that allows him to translate the rest of this alien language. Okay, cool. Follow, we're continuing this thing. Like it. So, he does translate the language, and when Silver Surfer comes back to fuck everything up, he can play this audio, which truly he could have done either way, but he wouldn't have known what it was. And because he did know what it was, he knew that it would be emotionally impactful and, like, psychological warfare or whatever. And that gets Silver Surfer to turn away from Galactus, kind of, in at least later on. Maybe not in that moment fully. However, this sequence of events, not a character arc. Not a character arc. What change happened? What? He was obsessed with space. He listens to this language and then he uses that knowledge to do something? That's not a character arc. He just did something. Where does he go? He doesn't go from being hot-headed to being smart, because he was never hot-headed in this movie. Maybe they say he is. They may talk about how he's crazy, and maybe he makes a loud noise a couple of times, but he's relatively subdued the entire movie. So my conspiracy theory is that he has no arc. Instead, his arc is hijacked by the Silver Surfer sacrificing herself. When the Silver Surfer sacrifices herself, instead of Johnny, that is a completion of Shalabal's character arc. She goes from being Galactus's herald to being shown by Johnny, or being reminded by Johnny of her humanity and stopping Galactus. That is a character arc for the Silver Surfer that Johnny was a contributor to. That wasn't for Johnny. What does he do in this movie? What does he do in this movie for himself? I'm genuinely racking my brain, and I can't think of it. He was the most bland. I'm just lecturing. He was the most bland character in the movie, besides maybe Mr. Fantastic. Ben Grimm, Thing, my favorite from the comics, and probably my favorite here. The Thing starts this movie the way that he usually does in these sorts of things. He's kind of lonely, and as an extension of that, he hates his rock body. He doesn't want to look like a freak. And none of that's really explored. We see one shot of him looking at, like, an old TV of himself, and then the TV goes out and you see him in the reflection, and he kind of has a sad face, and it's like, oh, he wishes he was human looking again. But the main thing is the lonely. Natasha Lyonne's character is kind of his love interest of sorts, and 2 or 3 times throughout the movie he goes and he visits her, and the idea is that he's kind of working himself up to have something with her, or do something, and so it's obvious he has a crush on this woman, and he wants to get to know her more. And then you see her again at some point. I don't think he even talks to her there. He just, like, sees her and walks away, kind of emphasizing this lonely, and he hates his rock body, and he doesn't want to go to her because of this, whatever. The third time you see her, it is the day before the world is potentially, and to these people probably, going to end. And he goes to this temple, this Jewish temple. What are they have a name. What's the name? Synagogue. He goes to a synagogue, and she's like, oh, are you here for spiritual guidance? You're like, what? And he's like, no, I'm here for you. And she goes, oh, and then the scene ends. She doesn't say anything after that, and you don't even see her again. I think you see her in Mole-Man's. I have things to say about Mole-Man. I think you see her again in Mole-Man's, Subterranea, but she's not talking to anybody. She's just screaming, or she's just scared because of Galactus. And then you never see her again. There is no resolution. As you'll notice, there's nothing here, because so he's lonely and he hates his rock body. He meets this woman and talks to her a little bit. And then those are question marks. I don't know if you can see it. Nothing happens. Absolutely nothing fucking happens. So what was the point? A big part of the finishing of the arcs that I think is it went wrong is that there's no falling action in this movie. There's barely any rising, and then the falling is completely non-existent. So we get no resolution of him. We get no resolution of him talking to Natasha Lyonne. We get no resolution of the Human Torch. Like, I don't know, because like do I guess he does something with his spit. Like, I don't know. I guess we get a resolution to her being pregnant. She has a baby and she loves it. And then I guess and then we totally don't get a resolution to him being science obsessed, and it's not like he becomes more of a family man. He turns off his screens at one point, but that's implied to be like late at night, so he's already been keeping this baby up. um bad movie. Bad movie, but I do have one more thing to say. Harvey Elder, the Mole Man, has the best and most defined character arc out of any character in this movie, and I'm not joking. The Mole Man. He hates the Fantastic Four at the beginning of the movie. They've captured him, they've stopped him from doing crime, and he just hates them. Then at one point in the movie, we see some political things that Sue Storm has been up to, and it turns out she brokers peace with Harvey Elder to an extent. And he says that he hates the Fantastic Four, at least three of them, but he likes Sue. Then, when Galactus is coming to New York, well, they need a place for millions of people to evacuate. And guess who they go to, and guess who stands the fuck up? Harvey Elder, the Mole Man. He goes from being a villain who hates the Fantastic Four to a guy who works with them to save people. That is a character arc. Now, not a very complicated one and not a great one, but I would say it's probably better than anyone else. And I haven't even mentioned Galactus really, but he does nothing. He probably says legitimately about 30 words in the whole movie. He's like, hey, I'm evil and I hunger and I want your son to kind of take this over. They're like, no. And he's like, okay. And then he shows up like an hour and a half later. I think the only thing he says is clever ants. I hope you enjoyed this. I don't even know if this is going to get uploaded. I don't know how edited it's going to be. Obviously, I didn't have a script for this. I've just been talking out of my ass. And I'm 18. I'm not a professional. I know nothing. If I maybe didn't pick up on something that I should have, maybe these arcs were more complete than I thought, let me know. Yell at me. You probably already have, if you care enough. But yeah, it's my first time doing something like this, and so if you want to see more, I'd be happy to. But anyway, thank you for watching this whole thing, and peace.